Ethics answer structure. I think you can ask Sir because I had a structure, it didn't work, okay, and then he completely destroyed it, which was rewarding. So you can just like he's very unorthodox. So he can be a better guide about answer structure. I don't think I'm the best person to speak because when people ask about ethics, I really don't know what I followed. I just followed whatever Sir said. It kept changing with every attempt. Okay, and this attempt gave me an above average mark. So I'm very uncomfortable when it comes to what works or what doesn't work for ethics. So yeah. Prelims is merely a rejection exam, and anyone who's got more than 850 this year's in this year's mains, nobody has been able to stop them from getting their desired service. So that's why mains becomes the most important process of selection here. So if there is a question, I saw a question as 5 units. A question shall be answered in 5 units. This I borrowed from Sir Anudeep, who was a topper. So 5 units, and then there are 20 questions in just 1, 2, 3 each. So the idea should be to complete 100 units in a paper and not just 20 questions. So you divide a GS1 paper into 100 units. So what are these 5 units? So unit 1 would be so understanding the question. So the first process of any question shall be to read the question twice. Make it a habit. Many times we just read it once and then we write what we want to write rather than addressing the need of the question. So make it a process to read the question twice. So once you know that this is what the question is, then you start dividing into parts. So once you understand that what are the parts, then you see how to address it. So this comes in 2 ways. Whenever there are more than 3 parts to a question, you try addressing one of those parts in a pictorial fashion. So when in a pictorial fashion, either you adopt structures like these. So whatever suits you. So you start practicing 3 or 4 structures, hierarchical structure or something like this, and then you start practicing 3 maps. So until last year I would say knowing India's map is good enough, but then now you'll have to start practicing India's, Asia's and the world map in a small, in a dimension like this. Because people are doing it. The evaluator does not know whether it's a GS1, it's a geography student's paper or a sociology student's paper. They have, students have mastered the art of fitting in maps in such strange places. So I was evaluating a student's answer where the question was Gandhi, besides placing importance to non-violence, also placed importance to cleanliness. So he had placed a map there also. So he had drawn India's map and then pointed out all the ashrams and places that Gandhi visited and just added that the places wherever Gandhi visited, he placed importance to cleanliness. Does it add value to the answer? No. But then when there are 2 equally standing paper, okay, with the same things written, I think this becomes a differentiating one. And the margin of error is so small that these small things do matter. So that is one. So unit 2 is when there are more than 2 or 3 parts, more than 3 parts to a question, try addressing one of the parts in a pictorial fashion. You need not explain whatever is written in this picture. It is self-explanatory. Okay, and then unit 3 would be answering the unasked. So answering the unasked, say we start analyzing both sides only when the term critically comes. Critically analyze, critically define, or critically justify, things like this. But then say for an example, say a question like Indian culture, unlike Egyptian and Greek culture, has been a continuum, justify. Okay, so because the question itself is leading in its statement, we have to justify it. Hence we start thinking, okay, Indian culture has been a continuum because we'll give examples like, say, food has been same, language has not evolved much, religion has been a continuum, and then the other part being, we say that, you know, Greek and Egyptian culture has been a discontinuum because religion has changed from paganism to Islam in Egypt, while paganism to Greek Orthodox Church in Greece. But this does not reflect the complete answer. The truth is there are elements of discontinuity even in Indian culture, while there are features of continuum even in Greek and Egyptian culture. So that needs to be written too. Though the bulk of the answer, which is unit 2, would be about justifying the statement, there needs to be a small para which says that in spite of the above said continuum, Indian culture has been a discontinuity. Example, the polity has changed from monarchy to democracy. Similarly, there have been features of continuum even in Greek and Egyptian culture, like the dependence on Nile, the river Nile, and then the aspect of democracy has been a continuum in Greece. So that gives a more mature and a more holistic answer. Did they ask it? No. But then it deserves a para, a small one, albeit a small one, to add another dimension to give a holistic answer. Okay, so that's unit 3, answering the unasked. And then unit 2, with respect to multi-dimensionalism, I had a mnemonic called so IAS GEEP history. So I for internal security, A for agriculture, S for society, G for geography, E for ethics, environment, economics, polity and history. So an answer becomes more colorful, more representative when we start forcing ourselves to think in these dimensions. This does not come naturally. So whenever I would take a GS test, I would write this mnemonic in the top and then force myself to think on these dimensions. So an example would be, let's take the question of Indian constitution has failed to accommodate interstate river water dispute has been a shortcoming, has been the biggest shortcoming of the Indian constitution. What are the reasons and the solutions? Fine, let's assume this question. So on the face of it, it looks like a very GS2 question, very polity question. Okay, so we start writing, you know, where the constitution provisions, how it has failed, the current tribunal, the shortcomings of it, and the new tribunal, that is permanent tribunal, that is being planned to replace it. Then, you know, then we start forcing ourselves to think in these dimensions. Okay, will points come from all these dimensions? No. But then we try forcing ourselves to think, say something like geography, there's a spatial disparity in terms of rain. Hence, rain shadow, rain, the windward and the leeward side have differential rainfalls. Hence, there's also a disparity because of that. So that we write. Then there's a question of ethics, where people from the upper riparian states feel that they own the river because it originates there. Hence, they lack a duty towards lower riparian state. Then there's a historical aspect saying that, you know, during the British rule, all our traditional water harvesting mechanisms have been forgotten and have not been kept up well. So these points add multitude to a very GS2 looking question. So that will happen not on the last day, provided we keep forcing ourselves to think for every question, for every test that we go through. So that becomes a more colorful answer for your for your second part. So third, the fourth one would be etc. Fourth one would be some small things like underlining, small things like an example should always be at the end of the statement. Say traditional water harvesting mechanisms have been ignored during the British rule. Then bracket open, then we write Eri, Urani, Tanka, Bund, Kund, whatever it is. Why is it important? Because when we write it in the middle of the sentence, it distorts communication. So it looks small, but then it has a better communicative effect. So underlining and putting examples in your bracket, and all affirmations shall be your point, and then examples should not add up to the point. So when you write a point, it should be a statement and not a mere restatement of an example. So after this, the fifth unit would be vertical answer writing. There are in every question in a question paper, out of 20 questions, there are at least 3-4 of them which are better communicated when you write the answer vertically. An example would be, what are the problems of tribes in India and the solutions. So when we start writing an horizontal answer, we would initially start off with an introduction, and then we will move on to problems and then solutions for the same. But then it's better communicated when we write it this way. So when you read answers written by people, they would write, these are 5 problems and then there are the 5 solutions. Okay, but when you read it at a final level, these 5 solutions and the problems will be totally different. Say you would have given a problem of education while leaving it unaddressed in the solutions. So it is best, if you read the question, it is, what are the problems faced by tribes and the solutions for the same. Okay, so we make the life of the examiner easy by writing it vertically. Problems, solutions. The problem is, say, something like education, and then we put an arrow and then we write the solution here, and then point 1, point 2, similarly. So that when the tired examiner, because ours is not the first paper that the examiner would be evaluating, ours could be the 15th, ours could be the 20th for the day. So we make his life easy so that he reads that, okay, this is the problem, this is the solution, this is the problem, this is the solution. It goes parallel. It makes his life easy. Hence, it guarantees us at least minimum marks. Okay. So that is vertical answer writing. And then it comes to, so yeah, again, something that I missed out on unit 1 was a value adding introduction and a value adding conclusion. Because most people nowadays give an introduction and a conclusion. What do I mean by value adding? Say, women in India have been historically oppressed is a generic introduction. Today most people write it. But then when we write that, in spite of constituting 22% of 49% of India's population, women contribute only 22% of India's GDP, thus reflecting their historical oppression. Because by the virtue of it having a fact, the examiner is forced to differentiate. Similarly, a conclusion would be the above stated steps would help the Muslim community mainstream in the long run. It's a generic conclusion, but then when we say that the above stated steps, when added to the such a committee's report, would help the Muslim community mainstream in the long run. So it is important that the introduction and the conclusion includes a fact, thereby forcing the examiner to differentiate it from any general fact. So for that I did certain things. I started collecting data topic wise, health, education, women, so as much as possible, start mugging it up, in the sense that the last thing that I did before the GS 123 paper was just going through those data so that it sticks for the next 3 years. Start collecting data, start mugging up fundamental rights, fundamental duties, directive principles of state policies and sustainable development goals, and then if possible start compiling list of popular Supreme Court judgments, and then list of committees, have at least 40 committees. So these are the 5 things. When you start having this compendium, it becomes easy. The introduction and the conclusion comes out naturally. You need not force yourself to think about a value loaded introduction and a conclusion. So that is it. So yeah, so this is how I approach the paper.
Can you please expand the acronym again?
You can make your own, but then this is like I for internal security, A for agriculture, S for society, G for geography, ethics, environment, economics, polity and history. So like for me, international relationship would be under polity. If you want, you can write for international relationship also. So something that you can customize for yourself. So that's what. So an answer should have all these 5 units as much as possible. Is a perfect answer possible? No. But then that does not stop us from pursuing the same. And idea is to complete these 100 units. Even if one of these units is missing, it is an incomplete paper. Hence 100 into 3, 300 units for GS 123.
So ethics, so what do you have followed?
So ethics, I don't think I'm the best person to speak because when people ask about ethics, I really don't know what I followed. I just followed whatever Sir said. It kept changing with every attempt. Okay, and this attempt gave me an above average mark. So I'm very uncomfortable when it comes to what works or what doesn't work for ethics. So yeah.
So when it comes to answer writing, what would be the right time for first timer to start writing answers, like practicing answers for mains?
So again, the more I wrote, the better results I got. In my first 2 attempts, I did not write a single answer, more due to my arrogance, because I generally did well in college, and then I thought UPSC was a cakewalk. But then I was brought down to Mother Earth, and that's when you start realizing that it's important. It does not matter where you come from. All that matters is whether you clear this exam or not. Our previous achievements or baggages does not matter. So in my third attempt, I wrote around 32 3-hour tests, and in my fourth attempt, I wrote 47 3-hour tests. All included my essays, my GS 1, 2, 3, ethics, law options, everything included 47. And I generally start writing after prelims, which meant that this time I was writing a 3-hour test every third day. So I practiced these things to such an extent that it became a habit. So that should be the endeavor. So for a first timer, the strategy should be to complete all your sources. You go through syllabus, curate your own list of books, go through NCRTs, make notes, and make notes topic wise. So my notes run to around 4,200 A4 sheets. So I mean, it's a 4-year work. So you should start having your own notes. You should know that this is just 1, 2, 3, 4, and then just start revising. Revise. So after prelims, strategy should be revise, write, and subject yourself to judgment and correction, and repeat the process.